Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope you're all doing good. Now, if you look at the title of this stream, it says Crazy Michigan Gun Control Bills. I have done 3 live streams this week specifically about Michigan, as well as 2 standalone videos. So, what I'm going to talk about tonight, yes, it is going on in Michigan, but I want to talk to my whole national audience. Sure, especially people that live in Michigan, of course, but all of you, because this is going on in these United States of America. And there's gun control going on, obviously, on its face. And look, gun control in a country where the Constitution is the supreme law of the land and the Second Amendment being written 1789, ratified 1791, says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, which literally leaves no room for interpretation, no wiggle room. And it means that if there was one gun control law that existed anywhere on the federal or state level in any of these United States, it would be completely unconstitutional. Now, some people like to cite the Supreme Court, so I will. Let's go back to 1803. Marbury v. Madison. All laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are void. Don't you guys love it when it's Supreme Court precedent this, case law that? The Supreme Court gets to pick. Yeah, except for they only pick and choose the ones they want to, don't they? Because if it was truly precedent, with the Second Amendment saying shall not be infringed, then we wouldn't be able to have any gun control laws thrust upon us, and that would be a good thing. But no, here we are. We have tens of thousands, upwards close to 30,000 now in this country. Federal gun control laws, regulations, CFRs, bureaucratic rules that have full force and effect of law, and so many other things. It's literally insane. So the gun control aspect of this, I reject outright, but there's actually more to it than that. It's actually way more tyrannical than that. We're now establishing in the state of Michigan, and this is probably going to be going on in other places as well, maybe it already is, we're setting up a sort of a caste system. A system where we have first-tier citizens and second-tier citizens. And I use citizen in air quotes and sarcastically in this case because it's more like a peasant class and a ruling class, isn't it? We now are having laws written, bills as of right now, that they're rushing through to become law during the lame duck session in Michigan, that sets it where there's rules for the governor, for the government, and then there's rules for the governed, the lesser thans, the wage slaves. See, they've demoted us down to servants when actually our politicians are supposed to be the public servants. They're supposed to be there to serve us. And I say the caste system because it's hard to move up in the ranks when you become part of the system. When you become part of the Department of Injustice system. Because for so many people out there, it's not that you get justice when you go to the justice system, you get injustice. And even if you win, you lose, because in so many cases, the punishment is the process. You either go to jail for a long time and go broke, or you go broke and make your life miserable trying to defeat the machine. And they're trying to criminalize lots of people. Lots of good everyday people. In this case, they're even going after CPL holders. Yeah, we did have a victory in that we talked them down a lot just yesterday in the committee hearings. However, they're still adding more prohibited places, and the places they're adding are prohibited are very, very important things for people like you and people like me to go to. But it doesn't apply to everybody, see? It only applies to the low down, regular old people. Well, I've got something to say about that. And much of what I'm going to say tonight is going to be based on words that actually aren't mine at all. Words that this country was literally founded upon. And that unfortunately too many people have forgotten. I'm going to read some things that most people won't even talk about because I don't know why. Maybe it's a little bit too edgy for all the people that like to just sit there and be governed over. That like to purchase just a little bit of freedom by buying that CPL or getting that permit or whatever it is you're trying to do till all of a sudden the government turns on you too. Now, it's crazy that it's not cool or not in style to read founding documents, but that's okay. That's okay. I've never been on here to try to be popular, but we need to bring back the Constitution in this country. We need to read from the Federalist Papers. And we even need to read an old letter from Thomas Jefferson, which I am going to take the opportunity to read tonight. But before we get going on all this, I want to thank all of you for the many ways you help support the channel. Thanks to all of my channel members, where you get extra emojis in this chat tonight, right now. Make sure you go over to my community tab. Just scroll through. There's a channel members section there where you'll see some extra videos, all kinds of stuff for channel members. Also on Patreon, which I give you guys bonus content as well. Thank you for those of you who might leave a super chat tonight, which I'll definitely read. And look, all of the ways you guys support, you guys are the sponsors of this channel. Also check out Locals, which is a different site, censorship free. Dude, we had a great time talking about guns. We can actually show guns live on my Saturday night streams. So make sure you're following me on Locals, and also check Locals every day right now. I'm posting deals on stuff over there that's like hotter than a firecracker on the 4th of July. Like some of the stuff I've just posted within the last couple hours is phenomenal, and it really might help save some of you guys. And it also might hit the spot too. Also, there's another site. The link to it's down in the description. We'll just call it the Big Green Meanie. YouTube doesn't care for it too much, but it rhymes with fumble. So check out that site, as well as X and Myriad Social. Just posted a couple of really good deals over on Myriad. Myriad is not only censorship free, but it's uncensorable. It's decentralized. It's on the blockchain. So definitely check that out. And I see Marco Polo was jumping on some deals too. So yeah, make sure you guys go over there. I'm being serious, especially right now with Black Friday coming up. I'm spending a lot of time finding you guys awesome deals on stuff. And I want to give Kurt24 a shout out and thank you. He sent me a Cash App the other day just to help me with my efforts, because I've been a slave to this Michigan stuff all week, and Kurt had appreciated all the information because he's working so much. So thank you, Kurt, and thank you to all of you guys, the ways you support. So there's several bills in Michigan right now that are getting promulgated through the process during the lame duck session. We have a bill, two bills here that are basically sister bills, Michigan House Bills 4127 and 4128. Now, everybody talks about this sacred right to vote, which, okay, it should be sacred that you can go vote. But they're now making people have to choose whether they want to be properly armed and or go vote. So you're going to notice a pattern tonight, a pattern that's very disturbing, of where to exercise one natural God-given right, you have to give up another. We're talking about prohibiting people that are near polling places within 100 feet of a ballot drop box, early election voting for 40 days before an election, possess a firearm within 100 feet from an absent voter ballot drop box for 40 days before an election, when an absent voter can vote an absent voter ballot in person with the city or township clerk, possess a firearm in a city or township clerk's office. So to go vote, or to go pay your water bill or your taxes, or any reason you'd be there, or maybe you're just at your local township hall or city hall to petition your local government for redress of grievance. Maybe you're there just to exercise your natural right that's protected by the First Amendment to speak. Maybe you just want to speak to community members there. Maybe you want to speak to your elected public servants there. Well, you're going to have to choose whether you can speak or vote or carry a gun. And this is crazy. This is the fact that people are even willing to accept this dichotomy where, well, of course, to be able to exercise your First Amendment protected rights, you have to disarm yourself. Well, who could possibly say that? But that's literally becoming the status quo here. And House Bills 4127, 4128, for many people in the state of Michigan, There's an exemption they put in here for CPL holders if they're carrying concealed, but you know, that's not good. That's not good enough. You should never have to purchase a permit to exercise your natural God-given right to keep and bear arms. To keep, whether it's in your house, whether it's on your person, to bear it, whether it's concealed or openly. You know what's funny? Anytime I talk about things where I'm like, well, the concealed carry guys might be exempted on a certain gun control bill, but what about people that don't have a permit and they infringe upon their natural right to bear arms openly? And it's kind of funny, and maybe some of you guys are part of this group and you can explain it to me. I just want to have a conversation tonight and get you guys to think about things, which is really the only reason I do this channel at all, to inform and to get you thinking and to get you having conversations with other people. But so often within the gun community, people say, screw open carrying. Why would you want to open carry anyways? That's what you get for open carrying. It's a bad tactical decision. I don't want my enemy to know I have a gun. I want to get the drop on them. And look, there might be some strategic advantages maybe in a gunfight if you're concealed carrying, but it's kind of weird. It's like the anti-gun community, the anti-Second Amendment industrial complex. That's actually what it really is. There's plenty of big money funding these groups. There's billionaires. There's the government itself. Keep in mind, we've literally had, legislation, the so-called Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Cornyn, McConnell, Lindsey Graham, it goes on and on and on. Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia. We're talking some of the most conservative states that we have in this country. Even their senators threw us under the bus. They literally are funding, with your tax dollars, local gun control groups with federal legislation and tons and tons and tons of funding. So it is a gun control industrial complex. They've been telling us so long that guns are taboo and you should keep it hidden, right? Some things are better just unseen in life. That I think, and I might be wrong, tell me all the reasons why I'm wrong, and that's totally fine. Look, as long as we're cool, like you guys can tell me why I'm wrong, but why is it that even the gun community, have we fallen victim? Have some of us? Not necessarily you or you, generally, specifically that's watching, but just the gun community as a whole. Have we actually fallen into the other side where we now want to say it's taboo to open carry a gun? Because, look, these rights codified on these old pieces of paper. Look, they're beautiful and they're very important pieces of paper, eloquently written, with a quill drawn from an inkwell. Very nice paper indeed. And they're beautiful to look at, but what do they mean? If every single generation from the founding fathers up until now don't stand behind those. And I find it kind of funny, and I find it kind of sad actually that so many, even within the gun community, will ridicule their fellow man for saying, well, that's your fault that you don't have a CPL. Well, there's a couple obvious rebuttals to that. Maybe first and foremost, the person doesn't have money for a CPL because it actually costs a lot of money. You have to pay for training, which is on the low end $100, up to maybe a couple $100, anywhere in between. You have to spend all day long. A lot of people work their butts off and can still barely make their ends meet at the end of the month. You have to bring ammunition with you. And then you have to pay the local county if you live in Michigan. And you guys can chime in wherever you live, how that works. And you have to pay for a permit. And that's not cheap in many cases. So there's that part of things. There's the other part of things where people are like, you know what? Screw you. I ain't going to buy a permit. And I respect that. Look, I do have a CPL, okay? Maybe that means I'm not as purist as I should be. And I'll be honest with you guys. First of all, let me say I've never claimed to be perfect, ever. Not even once, not even close. Yeah, I'm very flawed, just like everybody is. But I feel kind of bad sometimes that I even bought a stupid CPL because I shouldn't need it. Shouldn't need it at all. My carry permit was ratified in 1791, and it says, shall not be infringed. And that's the only carry permit any of us need. We don't need constitutional carry laws in these states. Although I know it's a big victory for states that have them, and you guys are glad you have them, and that's great, I guess. Like, it could be worse, but we shouldn't even have to have laws saying, oh, wait, so the Constitution actually means a little something in this state. And even then, most of those are all watered down, like constitutional carry for the law-abiding citizen, constitutional carry for people 21 and older. Hey, look, shout out to the Gunshine State, all of my friends from Florida. You guys are awesome, but you have a lot of rhinos in your government that suck. They have constitutional carry in Florida where you can't even open carry unless you're on your way to hunting and fishing. And it's for the law-abiding citizen. And I believe it's for 21 years old and older. I believe Rick Scott put that into effect to even buy a gun, I believe, right? But look, I'm not ripping on Florida at all. Trust me, there's plenty of subject matter to rip on my home state, and I've been doing it all week long. I'm just saying, the right to keep and bear arms, to me, means to bear it openly or concealed. To bear multiple arms openly, if that's what you're into. Rifle slung across your chest, another rifle across your back, and a pistol openly on each hip. If that's what you're into, why not? You know, people would go nuts if they said you can only vote if you purchase a voting permit. Very ironically, might not be a bad idea, but I digress. And I say that just as a kind of a to all the people out there that are saying, well, you should have to purchase your pistol permit before you can be a first-class citizen. You can be a first-class slave and pay for your right to keep and bear arms. Now, look, I have a CPL, okay? I'm not ripping on you guys any more than I kind of feel bad about myself for paying to exercise my right to concealed carry in Michigan. But I get it, guys. You got to do what you got to do. And I am going to read all of this chat afterwards. When I ask questions, I do actually look forward to your answers. And that's why I come back and keep doing this, because you guys are very smart and you're very encouraging, and I appreciate all of you. But the gun community is like all over people nowadays, especially I'm noticing in my home state, being like, well, if someone's stupid enough not to have a CPL, then I guess they get what they deserve when they go to try to vote and they can't carry anymore. It's like, excuse me? Look, if you just passively give up the free exercise of a right, the ability to exercise it just kind of like goes away. Because as I've said so many times before, politics always has been and always will be downstream from culture. And we need to stop apologizing to the other side. Look, there's no compromise with the other side on this. And anybody who's willing to compromise on their natural God-given rights that are enumerated in the Bill of Rights, I'm going to be very blunt, don't even deserve these rights. They really don't even deserve to be an American, because there is no compromise on the Bill of Rights whatsoever. If the Founding Fathers wanted compromise, they would have written that in there. Congress shall pass no law, is what it says in the First Amendment. It doesn't say Congress can't pass too many laws. Abridging. No, it doesn't say that at all. None. Zero. Shall not be infringed. Doesn't say, well, as long as the gun control laws aren't too bad, it'd be okay, I guess. You know what? I just saw a comment out of the corner of my eye. Jade, thank you for that comment. Those people view it as a privilege, not a right. And you said it best there. That is what that is. Because look, some people are, I guess you would say, fortunate enough. I don't even like the word privilege, and I don't think you do either, Jade, because they've ruined the word privilege in our vocabulary, like what it even means. They'll talk about things like, oh, you have white privilege. No, actually, I work as hard as anybody, okay? I always have dirt under my nails and calluses on my hands, and no, I reject all of that kind of crap. And I'm sick and tired of people, they pervert words, because privilege is a perfectly fine word to use. But I don't even like that word anymore. I don't even like half the words anymore because they've destroyed them and turned them into where there's all these alter egos and alter meanings behind them. But when you treat stuff as a privilege, like, oh, I'm lucky to get to carry a gun, I'm lucky to get to own a gun, guess what? You're going to get treated like you're getting doled out privileges instead of rights. Now, there's several things they're doing in Michigan right now. They're trying to undermine the family. Look, a good family is a beautiful thing, and it's getting harder and harder to achieve in this country nowadays. Statistically, half the people watching right now are in the middle of or from a broken home, and that's sad. And shout out to all of you guys that are doing the best you can. But look, the family is a very, very essential thing in any type of functioning society. And they're actually trying to put a wedge between our families now with the Second Amendment. Look at these House Bills 5450 and 5451 that they're rushing through Michigan. Well, they want to educate your children on the way the firearms are to be stored within the home. And then they want to send a letter home. And then they want to send a letter home with you, with the student, to make it known to the parents that we know and your child knows how you're supposed to store the firearms. This is within your home. These people have a lot of audacity that we've gotten to the point where our education system and our state legislators think they have any business whatsoever with even thinking about your natural right to keep and bear arms, and to even think about violating that you're to be secure in your effects and your papers, and that you're to be secure from government intrusion within your home. You know, there's a reason people don't talk about the Third Amendment quite as much. They can't make you quarter a troop within the home. That wasn't just because of the burden of the groceries that they would eat and all of that, and what they might do to your wife while you're out working, which they actually frequently did. Okay, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. But it was also because when you had a soldier quartered within your home, they were constantly reporting to the government, to the King of England and all of his cronies, General Gage, you know, all of the people that were trying to keep the colonists loyal British subjects. And now we've come all this far, all this time. It's been almost 250 years since the Declaration of Independence was written. We're really, really coming close to the 250-year mark. You know, I used to say 245 years when I did these streams, and some of you guys are still watching. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm glad we're able to get together, and maybe I'm able to inspire you a little bit, and you guys are able to inspire me for sure, and hopefully inspire each other. But we've gone 250 years. If you look at the shot heard around the world, we're coming up on about 6 months from now is all. And we'll celebrate 250 years of the first shots going off, Lexington and Concord, because that actually happened over a year before, July 4th, 1776. A lot of people don't know that. They think the Declaration of Independence was signed, and then like that day or the next day, boom, it got hot. Now, there have been periods of things heating up and cooling down and waxing and waning before that, but Lexington Green, Concord Bridge in Massachusetts, they call it the shot heard around the world, and nobody can actually prove who fired that first shot. Isn't that crazy? And now, you know, we're giving quarter with all of the spy devices, like right here. I'm actually having to tether tonight. See, I voted, guys. I know, taking part in a rigged system, but hey, I believe it's my duty, so I did. But also now trying to send letters home to your children, to you, letting them know you're quartering an agent of the state within your home is how they want to make you feel. And that's insane that you should ever have to think of your own child as you're quartering an agent of the state. I hope you all are teaching your children better than this. I know that you are, but I want to give you encouragement to keep up the good fight, because that's what Chairman Mao did in China, where untold millions, over 100 million, it could be 200 million. It'd be hard to tell because they didn't keep the best records of their mass graves and cemeteries, if you know what I mean. They turned the children against their parents, against their professors, against the institutions of the country itself. And it got violent. We've seen years now of what they call mostly peaceful protests. January 6th, there's a large group of people promising mostly peaceful protests again. I hope not. We'll see what happens, though. Things have been pleasantly calm, actually, since the election. Almost eerily too calm, but I hope it stays that way. There's a tip hotline in Michigan. There's a tip line in Michigan now where your children can call on you for the way that you're exercising your natural right to keep and bear arms. Not at the school, within your own home itself. Because these schools are all gun-free zones, which are criminal empowerment zones. Because a criminal is never going to be stopped by a sign on the door. I mean, think how ridiculous that is. It's literally insane. The person's hell-bent to do atrocities to an untold amount of children, young people, young adults, if it's a university. That person's evil to want to do that thing that they might be wanting to do or that they're going to do. When's the last time a sign on the door ever stopped anybody like that? In fact, in their twisted minds, it says, come on in. The water's fine. Because as always, with all gun control laws and with any laws generally, actually, these laws only affect the law-abiding. Because criminals don't follow laws and bad people don't follow signs on doors. And good people generally actually don't need laws. A lot of you fear your creator. You fear God too much to mess up. A lot of you are afraid of maybe what your friends and family might do to you. Dad's home and he just took his belt off. Used to be the American way. Now you'd be considered to be some horrible type of person. You better get your act together before Dad comes home. And Dad gives you that look and kind of taps his belt buckle and says, don't make me take that belt off. You know what I mean? But we've gotten to the point where people have been softened up so much now that every time there's sweeping gun control laws coming through, whether it's on the federal level or if it's on the state level, a lot of people, not you guys actually, not really my viewers. That's why we're different. I'm glad you guys are here. But just a lot of normies I talk to, they're like, oh, does it ban the AR-15? Well, no, not yet, but it makes it where you can't carry any firearm. Like when you go to vote or go to conduct business or petition your local government for redress of grievance, they're like, yeah, but hold on a minute, though. Are they coming for my guns right now? Well, not implicitly, but hold on a minute. Maybe, actually, since they're developing these red flag laws through all these states, methods where they're trying to get your children to create a quasi red flag law to red flag their parents from how they're keeping and bearing arms from within their home. Maybe, actually, yeah. Yeah. Dad, can I borrow the car? No. All right, well, then I'm going to call the tip hotline and get all your guns thrown in a big pile out on the lawn. By the way, they're exempt from any type of civil litigation. Complete immunity in these bills. Literally, any damages. I'll read it. The Department of Health and Human Services, a school district or intermediate school district, a public school academy, a non-public school, and any officers, board members, or employees of those institutions are immune from civil liability, both personally and professionally, for any damages allegedly caused by, arising out of, or relating to the information notice developed under Section 1313A. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. Think about this. And now we're creating two classes of citizens. Now, it's hard for me to say which one irks me the worst out of all this because it's just a bad situation to be in. Okay, so I can either carry a gun or go to my local township meeting to either speak or observe or petition my local government for redress of grievance. These are all very, very sovereign, God-given rights that are protected by the First Amendment. But I have to choose now if it's within 40 days of all these different things, how or if I may choose to risk carrying a gun. So it's hard for me to choose which one I despise the most. But there's something about these Senate bills 858 and 857 that's in my craw. First of all, shout out to all of you who raised hell with these legislators. And they were going to ban concealed carry and CPL holders from like thousands of places in Michigan. If you're not familiar with this update, there has been a Senate substitute bill for 858 that puts the exemption back in and gets stuff kind of sort of how it used to be for CPL holders, which we should not accept how it used to be either. And when I say how it used to be, people just have this weird thing, man. And I think this might be one of the blessings of the internet with its many curses. Many curses. But here's a blessing of the internet. People actually have the ability now to gain knowledge like they never, ever, ever have before. Because I talk to a lot of older people and they're like, yeah, Michigan used to be great back in the day. Back when I was a young lad, they say, in the 80s or 70s or 60s, we walked to school uphill both ways. Rain, snow, or shine. It snowed a foot every day, even in August. It was uphill both ways. And we used to have like no gun control in Michigan at all. Now, I applaud those people, but they're actually wrong. The major public acts, statutes, laws in Michigan that all of these new gun control laws get promulgated off of is the 1931 Public Act 328. In addition to, that's why whenever you see gun control bills in Michigan, I'll give you guys a quick trivia because some people don't know this. If you're wondering why, how come every time there's a gun control law passed in Michigan, they have to pass two that are like two concurrent numbers and they're bills, and then they have to have two always that almost say the same thing, but they're kind of a little different. That's because you have to amend both gun control laws that Michigan's been living under since, as an adult anyways, everyone that's alive now. For all intents and purposes. Yeah, there could be somebody out there that's 117 in this state, maybe, but probably not. For everybody's whole life, we've lived under these, and most people didn't even know it back then. I'm glad now people at least know. See, Senate Bill 857 amends Public Act 372 of 1927. In 1927 and 1931, Michigan passed two sweeping gun control bills. This would be, I guess, their version of like the NFA and the GCA. If you wanted me to like kind of, it's not an exact equivalency, but kind of sum it up, right? So-called greatest generation fought, many of them died, and many of them came back heroes to help fight communism, National Socialism, other isms, fascisms, and other countries. And when every one of them came back from World War II, these laws were on the books in Michigan. Just think about this. And the National Firearms Act was the law of the land nationwide. And they fought like hell. And I applaud their service. But they were able to do that to set other countries free. And then came back here at home and were perfectly fine, I guess. I mean, I'm putting our generation down too, because apparently we're perfectly fine with all of this too, actually. This country's been fine with massive gun control since 1934, and the state of Michigan's been, I guess, perfectly fine with massive gun control since 1927 and 1931. But it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Once you open the door, it just keeps going and going and going. And the door's been open for a long time. And now let's go to the other part of my title. where it says no two-way for second-class citizens. Now, I said this earlier, and I'm going to say it again because it's so important. You should never, ever, ever, in a constitutional republic, we are a representative constitutional republic where the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, where we have the people's house. This is the federal government, the United States House of Representatives that's supposed to represent the interest of we the people. And all of these people take oaths to uphold and defend the Constitution. Then we have the upper chamber, the United States Senate, and their interest is actually for the state, for each of these 50 United States. And they also take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. But there's not supposed to be titles of nobility in the United States, are there? We're not supposed to have lords and ladies and kings and queens. Remember at the founding of this country, Ben Franklin was asked, what have we, sir, a monarchy or a republic? And he said a republic, if you can keep it. And not many people have given a damn about keeping it for the past 250 years, and that's a fact. Don't take my word for it. We'll see what Thomas Jefferson had to say about it almost 250 years ago, actually. First of all, we're supposed to have equal justice under the law. Lady Justice is supposed to symbolize our justice system. And it's a lady who's blindfolded, holding a set of scales and a sword. The sword is to fight off any type of tyrannical government or tyrants that would try to upset the balance of those scales. A set of even scales. It'd be the burden of proof for any criminal offense beyond a reasonable doubt. The state is compelled to bring that forth and convince a jury of your peers. And you're allowed to have your own legal counsel. And you're allowed to present what's called exculpatory evidence. Not to prove your innocence, but to support your case, to support your innocence, because you're never supposed to have to prove you're innocent. In the United States of America, you are to be presumed in every single last scenario. It doesn't matter what people around town are saying. It doesn't matter until the evidence is put forth. Until you have proper due process of law. These are all things in the Bill of Rights. Beautiful document, by the way. You are presumed to be innocent up and until they're able to convince a jury of your peers beyond any reasonable doubt that you're guilty. Now, if everyone's just pretty darn sure you're guilty, or they just have a gut feeling you've probably done it, that's actually not the legal standard set by the United States Constitution, Bill of Rights. You have to be proven guilty. Burden of proof on the government beyond any reasonable doubt. But we have red flag laws where it's called take the guns first, then due process, which many Republicans advocate for, actually. Many Republicans do. The top Republican in the United States has called for them and been a big fan. Rick Scott, still a big fan, actually. He was on Megyn Kelly the day after I did that stream where I was calling him out, and he doubled down and said how much he supports red flag laws again. I'm just saying it. Thune won, by the way, the majority leader race. Just telling you guys, I wasn't blowing smoke up here, you know what. I knew he was a red flagger, Rick Scott. And he literally confirmed it on the Megyn Kelly show. You guys can go watch the episode. I wouldn't lie to you about it. He still supports them right now. Now, titles of nobility, lords and ladies. No, we're supposed to all be equal under the law. Whether it's a United States legislator, whether it's a Michigan legislator, whether it's somebody down on your county level, state level, township level, they're supposed to be regular people, just like you and just like me. And none of them are supposed to be above the law at all. First of all, if they violate the Constitution, they're violating their oath of office, which I would like to see them actually prosecute with penalties for people that start going against their oaths, that have been going against their oaths. And maybe it'd stop people from starting it. Maybe we could get rid of that nasty habit where they just violate all their oaths on on a whim at will constantly. Seems in most cases lately they violate their oaths more than they uphold them. The fact that any public servant, legislator, elected official would ever go after the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, proves that they're not honoring their oath, which is to uphold and defend. In fact, we should have equal justice under the law, period. But if I may say this just as a term of art, because I believe what I said previously is the real answer, if anything, we should have more rights than a legislator, not less. But I only say that just to try to put a little stab in their eye, because a little spit in the eye, right? Because they're sitting there thinking that they're under a different set of laws than us. And this is provable because now they're going to be making these 3 buildings in Lansing: the Michigan State Capitol building, the Anderson House Office building, the Bensfield Senate Office building. These are going to be a gun-free zone for everybody. CPL holder, not CPL holder. You won't be able to carry open. You won't be able to carry concealed. Unless. Let's look at Section 3. Subsection 3. 1, I to K. Okay. That's these three buildings. Does not apply to a person carrying a concealed pistol. If that person meets both. I had some viewers kind of wanting to debate me on this. It says both, guys. Unless you meet both of the following criteria. And that's just for these 3 buildings. They put them in a different section than all the other prohibited places for a reason. So they could give this two-tiered citizen class. A, is licensed to carry a concealed pistol, and also B, is carrying the concealed pistol while that person is serving as a member of the Michigan House of Representatives or the Michigan Senate. Who in the heck do these people think they are that are going to vote for this? That voted to pass it through committee. This has already passed through the Senate committee. 4 Democrat senators voted aye. 2 Republican senators voted nay. So I'm not lumping in the legislators that vote against this. But any legislator that votes for these bills, whether it's in committee, votes have already been taken, roll call has been taken and recorded. Those people believe that they're of better men than you. They believe that they're part of a different classification of citizen than you. And I have no doubt these will probably get voted on party lines, which means that more of your legislators than not will most likely, and I hope I'm wrong, keep calling. We already got them to gut half of the stuff in here, but it's still completely unacceptable. But more than half of your legislators in Michigan, unless we can really push them in these, we don't have much time, guys. They only have like 8 days left to get this stuff crammed through, like 8 session days. All right. So we're gonna have to really stay vigilant and keep on them and let them know this is not allowed. That's going to cost them their jobs. Let them know that you vote. Let them know that you're paying attention. Look, more than half the legislators in Michigan will probably want to vote for these. Maybe we can change a couple of their minds. Usually I say it's almost impossible, but we actually did get them to back off like crazy. They actually uncrossed out that one line in there that would have made it where you were prohibited in like thousands of places in the state. Watch my previous shorter video I put out yesterday. If you guys are new, welcome. And you're right, Fat Gray Man. I've actually talked about this topic a lot. And thanks for bringing it up tonight. These people aren't anti-gun. They love guns. They're just anti-you having a gun. Because when you look at the term gun control, the operative clause isn't gun. The operative clause is control. Because these people are protected by people with guns in the state capitol. They're protected by people with guns in the Anderson House Office building. They're protected by people with guns in the Bensfield, the Senate Office building. So once again, you have to choose. Isn't that a great choice? Just think about this. If somebody's like, would you like to take a sip of hemlock, sir? Or, and you're like, well, no, that's poison. By the way, anyone listening, no, you don't want. But look, sir, would you like to take a sip of arsenic? No. Or we'll give you a choice, or hemlock, your choice. You're like, excuse me? Well, I gave you a choice. I mean, it's perfectly reasonable, right, Mateo? Me and Mateo have talked about this. Well, what's wrong? We're being fair. Would you like an ounce of arsenic, or would you like an ounce of hemlock? We gave you a choice. This is no different, though, figuratively speaking. This is no different. This is them saying you can give up your First Amendment protected rights to retain your Second Amendment protected rights, or you can give up the second to exercise the first. And that's wrong. That's terribly wrong. What country does this state of Michigan even think it's in right now? Is this the Soviet Union? Is this Maoist China? Is this Mogadishu? I mean, what is this? Where are we? Because we can't be in America, because here's the thing. The narrative they're trying to portray to you requires the listener to be dumber than the speaker. And these people speaking this rhetoric have an IQ very similar to a rock. Because they're trying to lead you to believe, and unfortunately, too many people in the state of Michigan and this country are actually hook, line, and sinker with this brainwashing jargon. They're trying to make you now think in the state of Michigan and many other states that the Bill of Rights is multiple choice. Which ones would you like to choose today? Well, all of them. No. Pick one of four, and you can do that today. Excuse me? No. I would like to keep and bear arms while I watch a legislative hearing. I would like to keep and bear arms while I'm there to petition my government for redress of grievance. I would like to either support my representative if she's doing a good job, support my senator if he's doing a good job. And I'd like to go there very peacefully give them a piece of my mind if they're screwing up. Or anywhere in between, actually. You know, you're allowed to tell your legislator you don't like what they're doing. You know that, right? And not according to these bills, hopefully they don't, probably, but when these become law, you'll have to choose between going to talk to your legislator face to face in their office, the office that you pay the rent on, by the way, and you pay their salary and they work for you. And a good legislator will agree with me 100%. And if they don't, they're in there for the wrong reasons. It's called they're serving their district. You serve your district as representative. You serve your district as senator. And the ones that do a good job barely even get to hang out with their own families. They're so busy trying to serve their communities and their hometowns and where there are some out there that are really good, that take their job like really seriously on the local level. Once you get to Washington, D.C., we get down to where there might be a couple, here and there. But look, a lot of them on the local level are complete tyrants. But I want to tell you, I've spent time with these representatives and senators, and there's some of them that actually, first of all, watch this show. And then there's other ones that, like, literally you sit and talk to them just candidly, like real people, and they'll agree with everything I'm saying. But any legislator that would vote for this crap, where you can't go into their office and they voted for this, that you pay for, and you pay for those hired guns to protect them, and you pay for those metal detectors and weapon scanners, because a lot of people have said, I shall not comply. And look, you do you. I'm never going to advocate for anybody breaking any laws. I'm not on the internet. I'm not going to do that anywhere. But look, when it comes to this, and look, I love the saying, I will not comply. I shall not comply. And there are certain areas where you can do that. You know what it means when you say, I will not comply here? Well, you cannot comply with this, but not really, because now you have to give up your constitutionally protected right of freedom of speech to peaceably assemble, to have rallies within these buildings. You know, you're allowed to have a rally at the Capitol, right? You have to have permits, though. See, we've already let ourselves allow them to tell us we have to have permits to even peaceably assemble and to even speak. You already have to pay money and get permission to do that. And I guess that's been fine with people for years too. But when you say I shall not comply with this one, I'm just letting you guys know. I mean, I do. I love the saying for many things, and I love what it fundamentally stands for many things. But by saying I shall not comply means either A, you're going to walk into a metal detector, and if you try to walk even like a couple feet past that thing, you're going to get gang tackled, and it probably won't work out so good. Stop resisting, boom. If you try to cover your own face to keep them from like literally knocking your eyes out of your sockets, stop resisting. You will literally get tackled. I'm not joking. Like, there's these weapon systems at the state capitol building. They're not metal detectors. No. Way more advanced than that. This is like deep state 1984 Orwellian stuff. It picks up on way more. It's artificial intelligence. It's tied in with cameras, sensors. It's called geo-gridding with your communications devices. way more than a simple metal detector. So, look, you're not going to just walk past it. I mean, I'm just warning you guys. I don't want to see any of you guys brutalized. You try to just walk past it, and dude, there's like a whole mob of them, of boys in blue. They mob right around the thing, and they're ready for you if you try to walk past it. Now, the other way, you shall not comply. You're just going to stay home then, I guess. You know what I mean? You're still going to stay home. And you're just going to stay home because, well, a lot of people just stay home anyways. But I encourage you guys to go talk to your legislators in their office at the Capitol. Go to these House committee hearings. If it's something you're passionate about, if it's pertaining to the Second Amendment, sign up to testify. All right? If it's the same thing for the Senate hearings, sign up to testify. See, I'm a First Amendment purist too. I believe you can go there, you can testify, as long as you're not making direct threats or calls to action, okay? Then you can say whatever the heck you want to people at that Capitol, actually, whether it's offensive or not. But now you have to choose, don't you? Whether you want to exercise your right to keep him at arms, or whether you want to peaceably assemble. Speak. Imagine that, being able to just speak. Speak while you're holding a gun at your state capitol in your representative's office. Nobody's ever shot anybody in this Capitol building. Okay, don't let them fool you. Nobody's shot anybody in these office buildings. Nobody's even legally brandished a gun at anybody, because trust me, if they had brandished back in 2020 where they're all citing this, you would have known about it. Those people would have been in jail. They said people tried to kidnap the governor. Right, Jane Locke, except for the Null brothers. And I can't remember the other guy's name. They fought it to the end and were acquitted. They were acquitted of the charges. I'm not going to say they were found innocent. They were always innocent the whole time, unless they could prove they were guilty. The state could not prove they were guilty. They were bringing up the Whitmer alleged kidnapping, that people that actually fought it to the end were acquitted on the charges. Imagine that. Some people were, quote, guilty because they took the plea deal. Everybody takes the plea deal usually. So, yeah. It's all rhetoric. It's all BS. It's all based on lies. But what do you guys think about having two classes of citizens where the lords and ladies can carry while they're there? But you can't. Shouldn't need a CPL, but just so you guys know, whether you have a CPL or not, you won't be able to go into these buildings if this bill becomes a law. And I hope it doesn't, but it probably will. Probably meaning you guys still need to be getting a hold of your legislators Senate Bill 858, Senate Bill 857. Michigan House Bills 4127, 4128. And what's the other two? See, I have so many documents, guys. I've been living and breathing House and Senate documents for a week now. This is crazy. And House Bills 5450 and 5451. Do you guys notice a little edge in my voice? Yeah, I'm not happy about this at all. I assume some of you aren't either. So if the government's always against us, which it seems like it's against us way more than it's for us in the state of Michigan right now, with the Democrats still controlling the House by 2 people. They control the Senate by 2 seats. They've got the governorship, the Attorney General. The Attorney General. The Secretary of State, the Lieutenant Governor. I mean, these are real beauties. And when I say real beauty, I mean in a different kind of way. Eric Molitor. Thank you, Jane. Thank you. Someone's saying I'm swinging like a Miss Jake Paul. Maybe I'm just not exactly familiar with the relevancy to this stream. Actually, there's more chat, and there's more chat in this chat tonight that has absolutely nothing to do with my stream that I've seen in a long time. You notice that, Mateo? It's like some of the people in this stream, it's like they're watching it on us. They're watching someone else's stream while they're in here. That's kind of weird. Maybe you can sort that out, Mateo, and ask them if they're in the right place. I'm just talking about all of this stuff, and I'm like, huh? Maybe my chat got merged with another chat. Probably not. What did the Founding Fathers think about having a government? Well, there were 2 schools of thought. Federalists and anti-federalists. Anti-federalists didn't really want to have, essentially, some of them didn't want to have any government at all. Others said, well, we do need some government. I'm just going to read an excerpt from Federalist 51. Okay. It's addressed to the people of New York. The interest of man must be connected with the constitutional rights of the place. It may be a reflection on human nature that such devices should be necessary to control the abuses of government. They literally knew about abusive governments back then. Well, obviously, they were talking about forming a new government to get away from the tyranny of the King of England, right? That's why so many people think this is all something new. Look, the Bible says there ain't nothing new under the sun. And the Founding Fathers knew that none of this was new. They were essentially going through the same things back then as we are now. It's actually even a little bit worse now. Stephen J. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, and yes. And shout out to everybody who's watching on replay, by the way. And make sure you guys check that description as you're watching now or on replay. There's some smoking deals down there you guys are going to want to check out. Make sure you're also checking out my locals and myriad social deals, by the way. But what is government itself? But the greatest of all reflections on human nature? If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. In framing a government, which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. So if men were angels, we wouldn't need a government at all. But men are not angels. And the Founding Fathers decided we would need to literally put a government in, not to undermine your natural rights. No. but to protect and defend. That's why they all take an oath that are public servants. They're supposed to protect our natural God-given rights from being tread on by each other. Now, if the government were to be angels, we would need no checks and balances on government. And that's why the founding fathers acknowledged that we would need both external and internal controls on our government. Now, the internal controls on the government would be what they call separation of powers. 3 separate branches of government. See, that's gotten perverted to be 3 separate but equal branches of government. That's actually not what the founding fathers said at all. And by the way, in this country's founding, we didn't vote on United States senators the way we do now. In fact, the same classifications of people didn't vote originally as they do now. So things have changed a lot from the founding of this country. Boy, have things changed a lot. But you're supposed to have an executive branch, a legislative branch, and then actually a weaker judiciary branch. Internal checks. The Constitution itself, an internal check. The Bill of Rights, an internal check on government. Because the Bill of Rights doesn't grant you any rights at all. It acknowledges your natural rights that are endowed by your Creator. These are the laws of nature and of nature's God, Jefferson said. These are internal checks on government. The external checks are supposed to be we the people. And it's more pointedly than that the militia, which is regular people just like me and just like you that own guns, that keep and bear arms. Because a well-regulated militia, that's what's necessary to the security of a free state, right? And that's why the right of the people to keep and bear arms, it shall not be infringed. So there's one take on what government's for. Before the United States of America was actually a country. Now, where do rights come from, and why is the government supposed to exist, and what are you supposed to do when the government goes against that? In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's people just like me and just like you. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute a new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government, and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. And if you look at their grievances, they're so similar to now, it's not even funny. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having a direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. And it goes on, and I'm not going to read the rest of it, but you guys need to remember what the Declaration of Independence says. I think about that the ATF is now going through, and they're appealing that Judge Reed O'Connor's decision that said pistol braces are not stocks and they're not short-barreled rifles. Now they're going to appeal it. Look, Trump won, but the deep state's still coming after us. They were coming after the founding fathers too. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and to eat out their substance. It sounds very familiar to what's going on right now. Way too familiar. Now, how have we gotten so soft over the years? How have we gotten so soft by late 1787? Well, Thomas Jefferson wrote a letter. We're only 2 days off of the birthday of this letter, actually. November 13th, 1787, to William Stephen Smith, the son-in-law of John Adams. He said, and this is part of the letter, I do not know whether it is to you, to yourself, or Mr. Adams. I am to give my thanks for the copy of the new Constitution. Think about this. Jefferson had just received a new copy of the Constitution. You know what I mean? The Constitution wasn't even completely ratified yet. Jefferson writes this letter. I beg leave through you to place them where due. It will be yet 3 weeks before I shall receive them from America. There are very good articles in it and very bad. I do not know which preponderate. What we have lately read in the history of Holland, in the chapter of the stadtholder, would have suffered to set me against a chief magistrate eligible for a long duration, if I had ever been disposed towards one. And what we have always read of the elections of Polish kings should have forever excluded the idea of one continuable for life. Wonderful is the effect of impudent and persevering lying, the British ministry having so long hired their gazetteers to repeat and model and to every form lies about our being in anarchy, that the world has at length believed them. The English nation has believed them. The ministers themselves have come to believe them. And what is most wonderful, we have believed them ourselves. He's talking about state media and the fake news in 1787. Yet, where does this anarchy exist? Where did it ever exist? Except in the single instance of Massachusetts? And can history produce an instance of a rebellion so honorably conducted? I say nothing of its motives. They were founded in ignorance, not wickedness. God forbid we should ever be 20 years without such a rebellion. The people cannot be at all and always well informed. The part which is wrong, which will be discontented in proportion to the importance of the facts they misconceive. If they remain quiet under such misconceptions, it is a lethargy, the forerunner of death to the public liberty. We have 13 states independent for 11 years. There has been but one rebellion. That comes to one rebellion in a century and a half for each state. What country before ever existed a century and a half without a rebellion? And what country can preserve its liberties if their rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. The remedy is to set them right as to facts, pardon and pacify them. What signify a few lives lost in a century or two? The tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. It is its natural manure. Our convention has been too much impressed by the insurrection of Massachusetts, and in the spur of the moment, they are setting up a kite to keep the hen yard in order. I hope in God this article will be rectified before the new Constitution is accepted. Think about that. Thomas Jefferson was already frustrated in 1787 that there had not been an armed rebellion yet because of how he saw where the country was heading at that time. Isn't that crazy? Well, thank you for the sponsor of the stream tonight. You're the title sponsor of the stream tonight, Mr. C. Thank you for the super chat. Says fighting all injustices should be our goals. Yeah, I agree. Look, I got into very minor. It was just a little bit of sparring with some of my viewers over the First Amendment the other day. You know, I like other people's opinions, but I'm getting more purist on the Bill of Rights. The more this tyranny keeps coming, I don't see any reason to compromise with the other side on any natural God-given rights, because you give them an inch, they take a mile. You do nothing, they take a mile, actually. And what I've been talking about tonight, yeah, I was using Michigan bills that I hope we can fight off and they don't become laws as the basis for, but everything I'm talking about applies to this whole country. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow night on Locals and that censorship-free site where we touch and show guns that rhymes with fumble. Make sure you guys follow me on those places. The links are down in the description. And I wish the founding documents were as cool as boxing. And I wish I could orate as eloquently and motivate as much as Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. But clearly these documents are not. And I cannot. So go all enjoy the fight. Have a great time. And we'll see what happens with the Second Amendment later. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. And have a good one.